Welcome back to the Gruber Morning Show. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Good morning and welcome.
Today we have a number of things to cover in our podcast, and the first one we wanted to talk about was the image behind us. We get so many questions about our sunglasses, and we have promised a video reveal at some point, just not quite there yet, but this is the latest addition to the Gruber family. It's Madeline Gruber. She is 5 months old. And as you can see, she's a real Gruber because she needs sunglasses. So we thought that that would become our background picture today.
That's a great one. Boy, she is just rocking those sunglasses too.
Mm-hmm. And it looks like we've got some questions from, or a comment from TikTok. We weren't sure about our audio quality this morning, so it looks like everything sounds good. If any of you are experiencing something different, we thought we had a technical problem this morning.
We do have a question from Ray Johnson from YouTube as well. First, good morning, Ray. There have been a growing number of early Model S's, he says, with the BMS U029 error message. Tesla service centers are saying that this requires a full pack replacement. Have you run across this, and are there any other solutions? Thank you, Ray.
Well, yes, we've run across it. We're not 100% certain what is causing these errors. There's some conjecture that Tesla has actually begun to dial back the batteries a bit as they're aging for safety reasons, but that's only a suspicion at this point. However, we are able to repair this problem, but the difficulty we have is we are overwhelmed with customers that have this problem and that are trying to ship their cars to us. So until we clear a backlog, there isn't anything we can do. We are, however, taking reservations. So if you're interested, you can email evie@gruber.com and tell them what the problem is, and they will put you on a wait list, which we track in our CRM program.
Yes, I have seen us get through and have at least a couple of successful repairs from people who are getting that BMS U029 error message.
As most people probably know, the Tesla service centers do not do a battery repair at the service center level. They do not open up the pack and repair. They're just not equipped to do that. These packs that are pulled out of cars, once they're replaced with a new battery pack or sometimes refurbished pack, go back to the Lathrop Remanufacturing Center in Lathrop, California, and they are remanufactured at that level, which is what we end up doing in Gruber Motor Company here in Phoenix, Arizona, is we open them up and we repair down to either component level, if it's a BMB board repair, or to the cell level if it's a resistive cell, or any other problems such as water ingress, leaking coolant. There are a number of things that could happen to a battery pack. So one of the things I wanted to cover with you, we get asked this often. How does someone get into the EV space? How do you become proficient at repairing electric vehicles? We've had mechanics ask, how do I transition? What kind of training courses are available? And sadly, not much exists right now. But Tesla, a year or so ago, started a program called the START program, no pun intended there. But the acronym really doesn't have much to do with the broader description, which is Tesla Student Automotive Technician. And they offered this to a number of learning institutions, including community colleges and universities. And here's one that finally picked up the program. It is the Rio Hondo College. And by the way, this came to us from a suggestion in the last podcast. And
Yes.
we usually research this, and they were right on track. After researching this curriculum at Rio Hondo College, which by the way is nestled in the hills above Whittier, California, it was created in 1960, and it is a college that specializes in certain types of trades, including automotive, nursing, police academies. And so anyway, the START program, as Tesla named it, it's intended to educate entry-level technicians in the Tesla motor technology. The topics they include in this curriculum are working around high voltage, very important because those are dangerous voltages, 400 volts DC, maintenance issues with EVs, regenerative braking, inverter power transfer, battery technologies, battery management systems, high voltage bus service and charging, and pack connection and penthouse controls, autonomous technology, and general electric vehicle applications and how the car works basically. They discuss the physics of battery storage, and completion of this training is required by Tesla for employment as a level 1, 2, 3 technician or as a field service technician. So if you have any hopes of going to work for Tesla at one of their service centers, this is an important course for you to get under your belt. And hopefully this will become a template or a boilerplate for other learning institutions that are offering training.
You know, while Rio Hondo, I know, is based in Whittier, I've seen so much of colleges going online today. I don't know that we've looked up to see if this particular program is online or not, but if you're interested in learning more about electric vehicles overall and about Teslas in specific, I suggest you go to their website and check them out. There's a good chance that they're going to have at least some of these courses available online for their students to take, which would mean you'd be able to take them from anywhere in the world.
And that makes perfect sense, rather than, you know, traveling to Whittier and spending a year or two there. Online courses are definitely far more convenient for the student.
Yep, and you know, we encourage everybody here, keep those questions coming. Thank you guys for the early questions. It was through a question and comment yesterday on our Roadster podcast that we were able to learn about Rio Hondo College, and it's through the interactions with you that we are successful here. So let us know where you're coming from, let us know who you are, ask us your question, we'll do all we can to get the answers to you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, are we ready to pop up some images, Jesse?
Yep, showing all first.
Perfect. The first ones are, hang on a second here, my computer has gone flaky on me. There we go. CT1 and CT2, Cybertruck 1 and Cybertruck 2. Apparently, there are a bunch of Tesla fake pictures that are making their rounds, and this one had to do with the Tesla Cybertruck. And this, of course, isn't the only social media issue. There are a lot of fakes these days, especially with AI, and of course there always have been with the ability to use Photoshop.
Oh yes.
So what you're seeing here is an assembly line that has Rivian vehicles, and CT2 has converted this assembly line to Cybertrucks. And of course the claim was that Cybertrucks are now rolling off the assembly line. We have CT2 coming up. There we go. Actually, it was reversed, wasn't it? The Cybertrucks was the first picture.
Yeah, what was supposed to be Cybertrucks was the first picture, and this is the actual real picture of the Rivian trucks coming off the line.
There we go. And that was pretty skillfully done if you look at it. The next one is CT3 and CT4. And this shows Cybertrucks being loaded onto a transporter to be delivered to customers. It turns out that this image was actually a NASA image, and you'll see a rocket booster in a moment here with the next image, which was doctored and copied to show that Cybertrucks were being shipped. Now, it's, that doesn't mean that it's bad news. According to some import records uncovered by a Cybertruck enthusiast, he found that more components are coming from Italy to the Tesla Giga factory from IDRA, which is in Genoa, Italy. And these are the people that are making these giant presses that are making the frames for the Cybertruck. And apparently this latest shipment is going to be installed March 16th, 2023. There are, of course, 1.5 million reservations for this Cybertruck, and they're going to need to build a lot of them in order to keep up with demand. So the second IDRA Gigapress is going into the Texas Gigafactory for the Cybertruck production.
Do you think any of those Gigapresses are going to make their way to the Mexico factory that's being built as well?
You know, most likely. We did an article, or we did a feature on this particular company some podcasts ago, and it's a fascinating concept. The story goes something like this. At one point, Elon was looking at a little toy truck, and he's got a lot of kids, so I understand that,
Sure.
you know? And he was looking at this little die-cast toy car, and he said, now, why are we limited to this size? Why can't we make this much larger? And that's really what prompted Tesla to start looking for a company that was able to make a larger die cast. And this company in Italy, which I would suggest if you're interested, check it out, IDRA. It's a fascinating company, been around many, many decades, and they successfully make very large casting type presses.
Oh, that's very, very interesting. Brooklyn on TikTok has come to us. Good morning, Brooklyn. 2 comments. First, I want to learn more about Mr. Gruber. And second, what's the story with the sunglasses?
Okay, well, the sunglasses is a Gruber tradition, at least in this session. And the background picture is my 5-month-old granddaughter, Madeline, the latest addition to the Gruber family. And as you can see, we have a predisposition for sunglasses. Of course, when the video comes out, we'll have much more reveals about why we wear these. But in the meantime, we encourage you guys to put on your own sunglasses while you're watching this podcast, and some clues may begin to surface.
Real quick, Pete, I'm going to pull this up for the audience. You can also find Sandy did a couple videos on this company as well, where he actually toured their facilities, I think.
Oh, really? Okay. Sandy's videos are always worth watching. They're very informative. So, yeah, there's another one that you can view to get more information about IDRA.
Yeah, so you just would have to go to the Sandy Monroe podcast then, correct?
Yeah, to his YouTube page, Monroe Live.
Very cool.
The earlier question, I didn't mean to ignore it. One of the viewers wanted to know more about me. Well, in a nutshell, I've always been in electronics. I've always, in fact, even as a kid, and always been into cars. So this Gruber Motor Company is really the merging of 2 passions for me, and it's an enormous amount of fun. The other part that I like is the fact that we're in an age where changes are occurring rapidly. And although that could be stressful, if you just hang on, you know, for the ride, there's some exciting things that are occurring constantly at this point, and it's just a fun time to be alive.
Yeah, I think it is too. User 27 on TikTok makes a comment. It says, I just bought a battery-powered chainsaw. You know, with the lithium-ion batteries and the amount of power that they have, that battery and electric revolution is not really touching just cars. I have a battery-powered lawnmower. I've got a battery-powered weed eater, and it's not like these are little, you know, the lawnmower hard to push, doesn't work very well. No, it's a really top-performing piece of equipment, and I'm sure that the same thing is for these chainsaws. They take a lot of power, but the battery technology has advanced so much that there's a lot of power that can be given as well.
And just think what you've eliminated, you know, the gasoline, the oil that you had to put in the gasoline to make a 2-stroke engine operate properly, the cleaning of spark plugs, you know, and of course the fumes that come off of that. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And just the idea that if something has to sit for a few months, I'm not spending 10 minutes, yank, yank, yank. No, I press the start button and it starts.
And since chainsaws are typically seasonal, you had to clean a carburetor by the time you went to use it again, too, because your gasoline had turned into varnish.
Yes, by all means. Dev Cal on YouTube Shorts has come to us this morning. Good morning, Dev Cal. He asks, how did you guys get into the Tesla industry? Like, why not other manufacturers?
Well, a couple of answers there. One is, at the time we got into the EVs was at a time when I bought my first pure EV. We were, my wife and I were into Priuses, and I was fascinated by being able to go on and drive on an electric motor for very even short distances, under a mile, under 30 miles an hour as well. And my next car adventure was getting a Tesla Roadster in 2014. Back then, there weren't many EVs available, so Tesla was pretty much the dominant EV player at that time. We initially did repair other electric vehicles. We fixed Ford Fusions, the Chevy Bolt, the Priuses, pouch batteries, for example, hybrids. And we began to realize that in order to get really good at anything, you have to become laser focused. And we chose the Tesla Roadster, which had come off warranty by that time, recognizing that Tesla was the dominant player. They had other vehicle platforms that eventually would come off warranty, like the Model S now. And it just seemed like a good place to start. Now, we won't always be confined to just simply Tesla, because we feel that the other EV manufacturers will not have the ability to create their service delivery structure quickly enough based on production goals that they have, very aggressive production goals. And eventually they're going to outsource, and they're going to be looking for companies like us that have the skills to work on electric vehicles, which of course right now is a severe shortage, but that will all change within the next 5 years.
I know that there's at least one manufacturer, a large manufacturer of EVs in the U.S. today that has come to us, in fact, and we're looking into a partnership with them to become an authorized service center for them.
Exactly. So YouTube, Ray Johnson asks, thank you for your response. Follow-up, one solution has been third-party reset of error code. Is that a safe or viable solution? You know, I know that there are some highly skilled hackers out there that are able to circumvent some of the protection that Tesla has built into the cars. Some of them are successful, and others, you know, it's buyer beware, basically. What I always recommend is get some testimonials from customers, and that will, I think, guide you. And any vendor that knows what they're doing and has been successful is not going to be unwilling to give you their customers to talk to about you know, their services.
Right. The Model S itself is a diagnostic tool. You know, if you're Fords or Chevys or Cadillacs or Nissans, you plug your little OBD2 sensor in, and it will read the codes that your car computer gives, and it will diagnose problems for you, and the more advanced ones will give you ideas on how to fix it. Those code sensors typically have a way to clear the codes as well. With a Tesla, the car itself is the sensor. So somebody can put that car into service mode or factory, it's service mode, and they can read what the error messages are, and they do have some ability to clear those messages. Just like with your ICE vehicles, however, you may find that those messages come back fairly quickly, because the car is always working to sense what's going on internally, and when it sees something that's out of balance, it's going to continue to throw that error code.
There's a root cause that needs to be identified and resolved.
Yeah, so I don't think there's going to be any harm in having the code cleared based on what we've seen in repairs for the BSM 029 error, but I do think that it's going to become a recurring error, and it will probably become more frequent over time.
Mm-hmm. So from YouTube, Trucker Alistair. Welcome back, Trucker. He says, good morning, guys. Hope you're doing well at Gruber Motors. He's from Canada. All right.
Good morning, Trucker. Glad to have you on again.
And YouTube, Thomas Curtis. Kia ora from New Zealand. I guess that's how you say hello in New Zealand.
That's right. We remember that now.
We do. He says, the future is so bright, I got to wear shades. Love your work. All right, so we've got somebody wearing sunglasses along with us.
There you go, Thomas. And thanks for joining us again. Thomas is one of the ones that joined us last night in our Tesla Roadster specific podcast. I encourage people to come at 4 p.m. Mountain Time on Wednesdays. We have a lot of fun with that.
Facebook, Chuck Longloy, he's been with us before as well. He says, someone's got to do it. Glad you're providing a service. And by the way, while we're on this topic of the type of services we provide, our Tesla Roadster podcast yesterday was focused on an issue that is evolving with the Tesla Roadster battery packs. The original packs that were released in 2008, for the most part, are still successfully running. I have VIN number 5, for example, and it charges to over 150 miles, and it's 15 years old. Where we're seeing some problems most recently with a number of Tesla owners is the owners that upgraded in 2016 to a replacement battery pack, which had extended range and was designed to give them expanded life for the Roadster. And a number of owners back then bought this pack expecting to get both. Well, it turns out that this 2016 release is actually having some issues, and we have taken it as far as we can and turned it over to Tesla at this point, and there are two of the cars that we've worked on now at the Tempe Service Center. And it's beginning to look like there's an impedance problem in the cells. Whether this was a lot or a cell run issue will be yet to be determined by Tesla. Do you have any comments?
Well, yeah, I helped lead the engineering team as we were doing the troubleshooting and diagnosing of this particular issue. You know, knowing, like we just said, the Tesla cars themselves, even the Roadster, become the diagnostic vehicle that you use to figure out the problems. We had the chance to use the car and hook up the software that we have to that car to begin to do some diagnosis. One of the things that we're actually pretty well known for on the older Roadster battery packs especially, we call them the 1.5 packs, that were manufactured between 2008 and 2011, there will be a resistive cell that basically one of the 6900 lithium-ion battery cells in the pack will go bad. It'll become resistive, it'll become like a vampire, it'll drain the pack itself and eventually kill the car. We can take that pack out of series, basically clipping it out of the circuit, and the pack recovers and can go for a few more years. That's not the problem that we were seeing with these 2016 cars. On those cars, they simply don't accelerate. The pack charges, it holds a full voltage, it keeps its voltage until you put it under load. So using that evidence, we went out and we both did research and we also did a lot of diagnostic work, test drives using different parts of the Tesla Roadster software. On the research side, we found an article from the Journal of Electrochemical Society, where they had actually done some research on lithium-ion batteries that we happened to find that they found that these batteries would exhibit the same type of problems that we're seeing. And it had to do with manufacturing defects in the batteries themselves. We paired that up with our past experience in critical power services with lead-acid batteries and realized that we might be onto something here. We developed a working theory. At Gruber Power Services in 2014, the manufacturer of our Gruber Power Services branded lithium lead-acid batteries. There was a manufacturing defect. They did not put enough electrolyte into the batteries. We ended up with batteries that would hold a charge, but as soon as they went under load, the batteries would immediately drop voltage, the UPS would go down, and the batteries would show that they were at end of life after just a few months. That kind of thing is what's been happening with these 2016 battery packs. And if I can even go so far as the conclusion that the journal had brought, if you make a lithium-ion battery with too little electrolyte, that's the problem we had with these lead-acid batteries, it leads to a loss of capacity and lifetime. If there's a lack of electrolyte, voltage drops sharply at the beginning of the discharge cycle. These are the symptoms that we're seeing. So we've presented this information with our findings over to Tesla Engineering, and they've been wonderfully cooperative in working with us on this.
They're currently working on two Roadsters that are exhibiting these symptoms in Tempe, and by Friday next week we'll have their final conclusions as to what's going on with these Roadsters. But the original point was two things. There's good collaboration between us and Tesla, and it looks like we may be seeing the first indication of how multi-cell lithium-ion battery packs are going to go end of life. And it was in a pack that we really weren't expecting. We were expecting the first generation packs to go that route.
By all means.
If you're interested, we released the video last night on this very topic. It's about a 10-minute video, and it gives great detail as to what our findings were, screenshots of the software we used to identify the problem. It's out on YouTube, and it's our latest video, so feel free to go there, Gruber Motors on YouTube.
YouTube Shorts, Dev Cal is chiming in, and good morning or good evening to you. He says it's night here in the Middle East. Does Tesla also use CAN bus control system? Thanks again. The quick answer to that is yes, they do. They have their cars are designed on a CAN bus, very similar to other cars. There's one other that I'm going to jump to real quick, simply because Smuggler. Good morning, Smuggler. We have missed you. He says, do you miss me? And he's only got a few minutes.
Yes, welcome back, Smuggler.
So YouTube, Ray Johnson has one more question for us. Last question, if I might, on the BMS U29 error message. What is the reason for the error message? Is it a bad cell? Is it a bad brick? Is it a bad module? Is it hardware?
You know, we don't know. When we open these packs, we usually find some issues in the pack. But yeah, we're not sure.
Yeah, my memory serves correctly. I've worked some with the engineers that work on these cars. We have found different issues on different cars, so I don't know that we have a single answer for that.
So I've got a quick item here for you guys. Apparently, and this has to do with chat. Chat open AI, artificial intelligence, in other words. So somebody took this software, which is now trending for the last 60 days or so. Everybody is using AI for images, for text, for photographs, you name it. And it's become a really hot, cool, new technical topic. So he asked AI, compose a tweet that is statistically more likely to get like or comment from Elon Musk. Posted this out on Twitter. The results were: exciting times for space exploration. Looking forward to seeing how SpaceX will continue pushing the boundaries and expanding our knowledge of the universe. And then he put a couple of hashtags down below. Well, believe it or not, Elon did respond to this. And what he said was, it missed the mark. I hate hashtags. But you notice the irony there. Obviously, he saw it and he responded. So for those of you that are trying to get Elon's attention, apparently AI might be able to help you. So I'm sure that will create a flurry of AI-generated posts on Twitter, but have at it.
I think that's absolutely hilarious. You know, let's continue with our questions. They're heating up today. Eli DeChamp from YouTube has come to us. Good morning and welcome. Do you think three-wheeled vehicles like the Aptera and the Arcimoto have a chance in the American market?
Well, they already do. The interest and demand is strong, like it is in most EV-type vehicles. We saw an Electromechanica solo vehicle out at the Fountain Hills Festival about a month and a half ago or so. They had a number of EVs there. And there was an Aptera, or a solo vehicle there, the Electromechanica three-wheeler. A couple of takeaways from that. I was impressed with the overall construction. It definitely could have some unsprung weight problems, since you now have a lot more weight in the wheels. But what I found fascinating was that this vehicle is actually titled as a motorcycle, which reduces the insurance cost. And the safety issues in the vehicle, there was a roll bar or a roll cage behind the driver's seat. You know, that's the other concern with three-wheeled vehicles. They tend to be easier to tip over, and you know, you have safety issues. But overall, I think that for a single-person commuter effort, these are going to be very popular vehicles, and there are a number of them being produced at this point. The Aptera vehicle goes a step further. They also incorporate solar panels on the vehicle, which allow a 40-mile drive before between charges. Considering that the average commute is under 30 miles, that's going to be quite a popular vehicle, we feel.
By all means. These continue to grow in popularity. And there's another comment that we have from Smuggler along the same topic. He says, I looked up the Solo. I wonder why their battery warranty is only 45K miles or 5 years compared to everyone else who has 8 years.
And if they're attempting to maintain a certain level of cost, then they may be cutting corners on the length of warranty. It doesn't necessarily mean that the car was built to last less than some other vehicle. But if there's a cost incentive or a cost motivation there, that may be what's going on.
I believe that there are some federal requirements based on battery size in automotive vehicles that require an 8-year, 100,000-mile warranty. And with that in mind, my speculation is something that we've mentioned earlier. The Solo isn't a car. From a U.S. government standpoint, the electromechanical Solo is considered a motorcycle. So I'm speculating here that it may be that they're able to get away with just the 5 years and 45,000 miles. It reduces their risk.
Sure.
So Richard probably has something to chime in on that as well.
Yeah.
I do. So you're completely right, Mark. So the fact that it's labeled as a motorcycle may put it into a different category. What comes to mind is I bought a brand new KTM RC390 back in 2017, and the warranty was 2 years. And I think it was something like 25,000 miles or something like that. So for motorcycles, and I just looked it up, for motorcycles, it's 3 to 5 years, and usually around 36,000 miles is seemingly the average. So they could be taken from that.
Okay. And then Jesse, you wanted to say something as well.
Yeah, one other thing to consider, Richard, correct me if I'm wrong on this. Isn't that Solo, is it the one that has the in-wheel motors?
Yeah.
So that's another thing to consider, right? Is they have a less comprehensive warranty on the most important part, which is getting a lot more use than a typical engine or drive system in like a Tesla or something like that.
In an EV.
Sure.
Yeah.
By all means. So good comments, guys. Good comments.
So trucker Alistair from YouTube, he says, I see you found your replacement Pete Gruber with the shades and hairstyle. And what he's pointing to is the image behind us. We should probably reiterate what that's about. That is the latest addition to the Gruber family. That is my 5-month-old granddaughter, Madeline. And as you can see, in the Gruber tradition, she prefers sunglasses. And it'd be interesting to see if she's watching us at daycare right now, and if she has her sunglasses on while she's watching us.
I would not be surprised if she did. Now, for you guys on TikTok, I'll reiterate again, I realize you're seeing just as green screen. We are trying to work out the technical issues with our broadcast partners that help us to broadcast this podcast. Eventually, we'll get those issues worked out, and you'll be able to see the image. Until then, we run on a different platform with a different microphone and different camera, and so you're not able to see the image, unfortunately.
So I've got a news item here from Hyundai. Exciting news is the tagline. The Hyundai Ioniq 5 has been named the best electric vehicle of 2023 by Cars.com. So it looks like this is a magazine that selects certain vehicles, and we'll see if there are other agencies that pick up this this preference for this vehicle. But for now, at least, they feel that the 2023 Hyundai Ioniq 5 is the best vehicle in class in the EV world.
It's a pretty good quality vehicle. When my wife and I were looking at electric vehicles to buy, we had a 2015 Kia Soul EV. The Ioniq 5 was a strong contender for us. We did end up settling on the Volvo. Cars.com is well known. They're one of the places you go to sell your cars. They also had mentioned as their honorable choices the Ford F-150 Lightning and the Chevy Bolt as their two honorable mentions. One of the things I thought about interesting about the Ioniq 5, it has an 800-volt architecture for charging.
Interesting.
And that means it can utilize the latest Generation 4 350 kilowatt DC charging systems that are out there. For practical purposes, that means about 150 miles in about 15 minutes.
Interesting.
So,
You know, it's the question now is, when will Tesla move to the 800-volt architecture? It seems to be evolving into a standard.
yeah, it does seem to be evolving into a standard. We have also heard, and recently that Tesla is putting out their own Generation 4 chargers, superchargers, and we know that they're going to be able to pump a megawatt worth of energy in those chargers. Speculation is that the Cybertruck and semis are the main ones that will get to use that. However, the Model X's and Model Y's, Model S's, and Model 3's, all of them, as they come out in future years, we think are going to have that architecture built in as well. So that Generation 4 charging is definitely on its way.
So looks like TikTok. We had a question. He installed a Tesla Gen4 ECU in his 2019 Model 3 as a do-it-yourself CCS1 retrofit. Would you expect warranty concerns? It works perfectly, by the way. Wow, that's a question for Tesla. You know, anytime that you go into the restricted areas of an EV, especially Tesla, they have concerns about the safety issues if it shows up at a service center. Was it installed properly? Does it pose a safety risk for their technicians or mechanics? So that's really a question for them.
By all means, and that's Andy Casper from TikTok who asked that question of us. Good question, Andy, and welcome to the show this morning.
So here's a news item that is close to my heart. The last combustion engine Challenger, Dodge Challenger, is going out with a bang is the headline. Dodge has revealed the new Demon reaches 0 to 60. Now this is an ICE engine car, mind you, two-wheel drive, right? It reaches 0 to 60 in just 1.66 seconds. So here's how the article reads. This is the Dodge Demon 170 will be able to rocket from 0 to 160 in a bonkers 1.66 seconds. If this is true, it would instantly make it the world's fastest production car, about 0.13 seconds faster than the current record holder, which is the all-electric Pininfarina Battista. Top speed is 151 miles, the quarter mile stats are 151 miles in 8.91 seconds for a quarter mile run. And they say this is practically dragster territory, and it is a street legal car. Now how they're achieving this is a mystery to me, because without four-wheel drive, how are they able to get that 0 to 60 down to 1.66 seconds? But apparently this is going to be the last ditch attempt to make a ICE car, because after that, Dodge is going to be a 100% electric vehicle, not owned by Stellantis, by the way.
Right.
But this is something close to my heart, because I've rebuilt, I'm a Mopar guy back in my ICE days, and I rebuilt a 68 Dodge Charger, a 69 Plymouth Roadrunner with a 4-speed Hurst, a 71 Cuda, which is still being rebuilt, a 1970 Roadrunner. And so anyway, my DNA runs toward Mopar, at least in the ICE world. Dodge has always been a performance brand. And they were always willing to break the rules, when the rest of the guys were doing middle-of-the-road family sedans and that type of thing, whereas Dodge was always willing to go beyond that. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of magic they bring to the EV world once they switch over to 100% EVs.
It will be really interesting, and kind of leaves me shaking my head. I mean, a street legal car, probably less than $200,000 as an MSRP price, and all-world type of performance. I mean, there are the Varions, the $3 and $4 million supercars don't have the kind of speed that we're talking about here, although they probably have a higher top speed. I wonder, how did they get that much torque on an ICE engine?
Yeah, that's a mystery to me too. Of course, it's in tires. That's definitely part of it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have the other issues. If you've watched these cars at the drag strips, the front end typically comes up, and suddenly you've lost your steering control, and you just hope it goes straight like a rocket. Oftentimes they don't, and they end up in the guardrails. But hats off to Dodge for coming out with one final last gasp. And actually, the next article, if we can bring up a picture of the conversion, there was a Plymouth Satellite 1970 EV conversion called the Electrolyte. And what they were able to do here was squeeze a 100 kW Tesla battery pack into this car. We're only showing the front here, but what they ended up doing was taking the 16 modules and distributing them throughout the car. Some are under the hood, some are in the trunk, and it has an aftermarket battery management system. Now, if you recall, one of the early electric vehicles that really helped start the EV revolution, the AC propulsion T0, ended up putting lithium-ion battery modules in the doors. And so that's part of the challenge with these conversions is, where are you going to put some of this hardware that is not intended to be put in a car like this? And the battery is a big one, because in a Tesla Model S, the entire floorboard of the battery, or the car, is the battery. They added that with this particular build, they used a Model S subframe, which in turn required to switch to pushrod suspension because the installation left no room for springs. And the Tesla drivetrain also is very wide, so it looks like they had to make some body modifications to this vehicle. But it goes 200 miles, 200 to 250 miles at 80% charge, and it probably is a lot faster than the original version, even with a 440 plugged into that engine compartment.
That is just fascinating to me to see continue to see the amazing work that these mechanics are doing on automotive vehicles like this. And I would bet almost money that you see that thing driving down the road, you're probably not going to understand or notice that it's an electric vehicle.
No.
And when it takes off and is silent, you're going to just be jaw on the ground saying, what in the heck is going on there?
What just happened? Yeah. So the other thing about these conversions is, until companies come out, and they're starting to emerge, that make a plug-and-play drivetrain for certain types of conversions. This was a lot of work. I won't bore you with everything in the article, but they ended up having to, like smaller parts, they had to make, they had to 3D print a number of things. They used a Smart for 2 electric drive heater core because it just happened to fit perfectly. So you're going to be taking things from other cars and attempting to come up with a good combination. But eventually, there will be a whole cottage industry of companies that are making conversion drivetrains. In fact, we talked in an earlier podcast how the OEMs are beginning to focus on that. Ford now has one. GM also has a conversion kit for some of their vehicles. And that's going to be important because not everybody has the skills and the patience that this particular owner with this 1970 satellite conversion does or did.
Now, of all those things, the one that I'm going to really focus on, this is a bigger version of a smart car. You just
Very
said
much, yeah.
You just said it's got a Smart 4.2 component right in the middle of it.
Very cool. All right, so another news item that we have here is we came across some statistics. Did you want to run with this one?
Yeah. How many electric cars are in the U.S.? There's a great site, 8billiontrees.com, that goes in depth into how many electric cars are in the U.S., how many cars are going to be coming into the United States, and what's the growth rate. And that's the number 8, and then it's spelled out billiontrees.com. I talk about if you're planning a switch to a more environmentally friendly vehicle, you may be questioning to start with how many electric vehicles really are there in the United States. Are they popular? Is there good infrastructure for them? So on and so forth. Now, reports have indicated that sales of EVs almost doubled between 2020 and 2021. There were 308,000 sold in 2020, over 600,000 sold in 2021, and more than 56,000 of those were sold by companies just in March of 2023. Cumulatively, in fact, manufacturers have sold over 2.5 million vehicles, electric plug-in vehicles, in the last 12 years. That's a 60% increase in EV registrations just in the first quarter of 2022. And it represents, at the time of the article's writing, about 5% or a little under 5% of all new vehicle registrations. I know that as of the beginning of 2023, electric vehicle registrations are now above 6% of all vehicles sold. So that percentage is increasing rapidly. and it's right now sitting about 6.1%. That led me to one other question that I really wondered about too is, okay, you've got all these electric vehicles, where are you going to charge them? Range anxiety, charging infrastructure, that is the anxiety of the day for people who are charging electric cars. And I would say if you really want to get a good perspective, kind of a 30,000 foot view, look back 100 years. In the 1920s, the Ford Model T, Model A, and the General Motors and Packards and all of these other cars were just coming out. Everybody wanted one, and that was one of the big questions at the time. Okay, I can go take my car for a drive to the countryside. How am I going to get back if I can't fill up with gas anywhere? That problem was solved pretty quickly and easily. The same thing is happening in electric vehicles. We have, at the beginning of 2022, we had 56,000 electric vehicle level 2 chargers and about 10,000 level 3 fast chargers. And this is not counting Tesla's supercharger network. At the end of 2022, we were at 126,000 level 2 electric vehicle chargers. That's up by 54,000 or about 35%. And level 3 chargers were up to a little over 20,000, up just about doubling the number of level 3 or fast chargers that are out there. By 2030, experts estimate that we're going to need about 2 to 2.25 million level 2 chargers, and then probably close to 200,000 level 3 chargers. This does not include home charging, by the way. This is just the chargers that are out in the marketplace for people who need to charge where they're on the go. Well, our U.S. government has already, through the Inflation Reduction Act, committed to buying or paying for installation of 500,000 new electric vehicle charging stations within the next 5 years. All 50 states are on board. All 50 states have plans approved by the federal government to go forward, and that build-out is already getting started. So it looks like they're going to end up making that goal. And I truly believe that the charging infrastructure is going to be in place to support what auto industry experts think of as almost 30 million electric vehicles on the road by the time 2030 rolls around.
Thank you. So it looks like we have a YouTube comment from Ray Johnson. Hello, Ray. How are you doing? He says, thanks for your valuable answers. First-time viewer, north of you in Reno, Tahoe area, home of Giga, Nevada. Absolutely. Well, welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Ray, and glad to have you on as first-time viewer.
So I've got an interesting comment here from Cora. You guys familiar with Cora, perhaps? And I get, on a daily basis, I get questions, and some of them are interesting. This one was, why doesn't Elon Musk or any other executive that claims to work 100 hours a week have deeply ingrained bags under their eyes? I had to read this one. This one was interesting because I work a lot of hours, not quite 100, but I'm up there. So the answer goes something like this. When CEOs say they work 100 hours a week, what they don't tell you is everything that goes into supporting that. For example, Musk does not cook, clean, housework, chores, take care of his kids. Stuff that the vast majority of us still do after going home. So Elon, if you're watching, please chime in and let us know, do you do this type of housework? Is this person on track? They continue. If the average person added up all the time that they spent on other responsibilities that the CEO doesn't have to worry about, they would put in near the same amount of time. The other misnomer is that these 100 hours that the CEOs work aren't the same level of intensity as someone who works in a production line for 8 hours a day. Part of the CEO's work is things like executive time or personal development, or a block of time where they can do whatever they like. They might decide to go work out or do market research. They definitely aren't doing back-breaking work, while sometimes, heck, they say, part of Elon Musk's workday is probably just hopping on Twitter and posting stuff.
Absolutely.
It's a lot easier to work 100 hours a week, they say, when everything other needs go outside of or when all the other needs outside the office are taken care of for you. So anyway, for those of you that work over 40 hours a week, please let us know if you agree or disagree.
You know, I think that makes a lot of logical sense. I go back, my two kids have both come through college. In fact, one of them is still actually pursuing his bachelor's degree. Daughter has gone through college, and I've known several people who have gone through college, even when I went myself. It's not unusual for somebody to take a full college load. That's going to be anywhere from 15 to 18 credit hours. Now, 15 to 18 credit hours means you're in a classroom getting instruction 15 to 18 hours a week. For every credit hour in college, you're typically going to have 2 hours of homework. So add to that 18 hours, 36 hours. You're now up to 52 hours a week. Add to that the people who work themselves through college, and there are a bunch of them. They work full-time jobs. That's 40 hours a week. Okay, now we're already up to 92 hours a week. And this isn't CEO time. These guys do have to clean their own bathrooms, do their own laundry, commute to and from work, and so on and so forth. And they've got to do all that stuff in just 8 hours. Otherwise, they're exceeding 100 hours a week. So, personally, yeah, I think it's completely possible that a CEO like Elon, working in what he loves and what he's passionate about, could be putting in over 100 hours a week on a regular basis. To him, it's not work. To him, it's life and it's his passion. And I think that's where the dichotomy comes in for a lot of people. There are a lot of people that say work is work and you suffer through it for 40 hours and then you're done. But what about when work isn't work?
Right. Very good point.
Or
yes.
what about when you're paid, $100,000 an hour or whatever Elon makes, right?
That
Right.
absolutely helps.
Yeah. Just so you guys know, we're at 57 minutes.
57 minutes, okay.
And Stuntman on TikTok agrees with us. Great comment, Stuntman. He says, I work 56 hours in 4 days. That's a lot of work. That is 19 hours a day. So he's only given himself about 5 hours a day to sleep and do everything else.
So anyway, it looks like we're coming to the end of this show, right? Okay. And we will be broadcasting again next week, Tuesday. It looks like we're going to keep these at 10 o'clock for now. We got word today that Sandy Monroe will not be joining us April 6th, but April 30th instead. He's traveling.
Today. Yep, week from today.
March 30th.
March 30th.
Oh, March 30th.
Yeah, no, this is a week from today, March 30th. Sorry.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry, I got that wrong. Okay, I thought it was way out there, so it's even sooner. We're looking forward to having Sandy on this show. We have a lot in common. He's the teardown expert. We're the fix-it expert. And I'm sure we'll have a lot of interesting things to talk about. Next week, Wednesday, we're going to have the first Tesla technician on our podcast. He's been here before, and I assure you this will be an entertaining session because Jameson Cummings is full of interesting anecdotal stories about the early days of Tesla. What was it like working there when they had only a handful of people? He will keep you entertained, and we air this one at 4 o'clock Mountain Standard Time Wednesdays. And this is the Roadster podcast, and then we have the EV podcasts on both sides of that, Tuesday morning at 10 and Thursday morning at 10. So we encourage you to join us, and as always, if you have any final questions, feel free to email them to us or post them on the video. This live session is posted on our YouTube channel, and you can post your questions or your comments there as well.
And Pete, don't forget to announce our video from yesterday, if you guys can re-announce that.
Sure. So the video that we posted yesterday was related to a phenomena that we're beginning to see with Tesla Roadsters. And the reason this is an interesting video is we've all been waiting to see how EV multi-cell battery packs are going to begin to fail, go end of life, because they haven't yet. The Tesla Roadster is going on 15 years, and many of them are still operating and still functioning. What we have begun to realize is There is an in-between pack that is beginning to go end of life. And we're not 100% certain yet precisely what the cause is, because Tesla is working on it with us. And until we have their final conclusions, we're going to withhold some judgment. But the video talks about the phenomenon that we're seeing currently with certain roadsters becoming anemic, losing power. We have one customer that lives in the hills in California. He can't even get up to his house anymore. And one is actually completely dead, and it starts with a loss of power, which is not indicative of what a roadster normally experiences. They have an enormous amount of punch and very fast off the line. But as these packs begin to alter and change, the power begins to disappear. One of our customers actually commented and said, "My accelerator pedal feels squishy." And that was probably the best description of what I experienced as well. I tried to take one of these cars affected for a test drive, and as I was entering the freeway on-ramp, it was on a slight incline, and I felt like I was in an ICE vehicle, and I hadn't done that in quite some time. So anyway, look at the video. It's Gruber Motors. It's called Tesla Roadsters Going End of Life. It'll be informative.
Okay, we got something Richard is going to announce here for us.
Yeah, so definitely go check out that video. A lot of really good information in it. We just wanted to let you guys know that we've got more than a few videos in the pipeline. So just stay on the lookout. We'll be releasing more videos frequently for you guys with higher quality videos as well. We're learning from previous videos, and we're just going to continue to up the quality. And yeah, so just keep on the lookout for them.
And I got to go on record here, guys. Our social media team is gaining skills every week. The production quality continues to soar, and we're having a lot of fun doing it. So hopefully you'll be impressed with the results as our videos continue to become more professional and over the top.
By all means, you guys rock. Two last comments. Trucker Alistair, he says, "My value of life is to work to live and not live to work." That's a good value, trucker. It's even better when you never have to work a day of your life.
Because you enjoy what you're doing.
Because you're enjoying
the work
what you're
is
doing.
fun. Yeah.
And then B Rich 2929, good show, guys. I enjoyed it. Thank you very much. For everybody, keep the questions coming. We will answer the questions that come in between the podcasts at the beginning of the next podcast. And until Tuesday, I hope you have a wonderful time.
Thank you for joining us.